Open water swimming can be daunting and sometimes just plain scary.
Yeah, and when you're already anxious and then feel out of breath, it can be crippling.
So what is causing your shortness of breath and how can you fix it?
Now, there are a lot of possible reasons for shortness of breath in open water swims, and more than likely it's one or more of the following. So first off, a tight wetsuit. Now, quite often we only get our wetsuits out for those big open water swims, obviously, and by doing so we're hoping that that wetsuit's going to make us faster and hopefully a little bit warmer. But it can take some getting used to that slight tightness around the chest and the upper body. So we do recommend giving it a few swims to kind of adjust to that, because the tightness that it can create around that chest and upper body can result in incomplete breaths and obviously that breathlessness or shortness of breath. Now, we're going to assume that you have a well-fitted and well-sized wetsuit, in which case make sure that you're fitting it and putting it on correctly. A wetsuit that's not pulled up enough into your upper body will pull down and create tension on your shoulders, which obviously is going to affect your technique, but also it's going to create pressure around your chest. Your chest is going to be able to expand as it should to get those big breaths in, and that will lead to the shortness of breaths.
Hopefully a wetsuit solves this one, but even with a wetsuit, there's going to be an initial flood of water into that wetsuit, and also your face and hands are going to feel it. And this can lead to a gasp reflex and also a tightening of the chest muscles and lifting your shoulders up to fight that cold. And all this affects your ability to breathe fully and deeply. In training, make sure you warm up before you get into the water, and also take some time to adjust to the water temperature before you swim off. In races, you definitely want to try and get in the water before the race starts if you're allowed to. And if you're not allowed to, make sure you start a little bit slower and give yourself time to adjust and relax consciously to fight that gasp reflex that you're going to get when you first get in the cold water.
Yep, a lot of people actually change their breathing pattern in the open water. When you think of swimming in the swimming pool, we have something to look at under the water. We've got the bottom of the pool or a black line to follow, whereas in the open water, that isn't the case, and therefore attention is often drawn to the surface of the water where there are things to look at, and therefore end up with our head out of the water more than it is in the water. Now, you may think, well, that's surely going to help with that sense of breathlessness because we're able to breathe more. But actually, the opposite is true. By having our head out of the water more, it means that we're not able to exhale as well, and therefore it's also going to affect how much we're able to inhale. And this cycle goes on and actually can lead to a buildup of CO2 that then actually increases that breathlessness. So to fix this, you want to make sure that you're exhaling fully, you're trickling your breath out underneath the water over the course of a few strokes before quickly breathing to the side and then getting the head straight back in the water. And one way to work on this is actually to really focus on something under the water if you can, and track that whilst you're exhaling.
In chop or turbulent water, it can be hard to keep your face out of the water for long enough to get a complete breath in. And the longer your mouth is open, the more chance of an unwelcome wave entering it. And this can lead to gasped half breaths and incomplete breaths. To fix this, rotate a little bit further and keep your face out the water for a little bit longer so you can get that full breath in. Also, try to breathe a little bit more behind you and into your armpit. This way your mouth is a little bit more protected from that chop and to stop water entering it.
Yeah, we're often taught that to overcome choppy swims and wavy swims that we need to increase our stroke rate, more strokes per minute. And whilst this is the case for those wavy and choppy swims, or when we're swimming in close proximity to other swimmers, we might be bashed. However, increasing your stroke rate may lead to an increased heart rate, which is going to lead to increased breathing. You're trying to breathe to keep up with the demands, but unfortunately it can't keep up. You can't get enough oxygen in, and then therefore you end up with this sense of breathlessness. This is all compounded by a more frantic swim stroke, a faster stroke rate, which doesn't allow time for some of the previous points we've mentioned, such as inhalation, exhalation. So, in summary, don't shorten your swim stroke. Don't speed up that stroke rate unless you can do so without increasing the effort level. This is a really hard thing to master, so in most cases we would suggest don't even try. The only thing we would suggest working on is trying to cut some of those dead spots in the stroke or any glides at the front of the stroke, which will obviously increase the stroke rate with that.
This seems to be a favourite and really simple explanation for shortness of breath. And I know, this is not you, you're really good at pacing it, and your shortness of breath is definitely caused by something else because you pace the start perfectly, right? But do you really? How well can you really judge your pace in those first 200 to 300 meters of the race, especially when you're motivated, excited, and that adrenaline is pumping? You may be pushing slightly too hard, and before you know it, you're 200 or 300 meters into the race and you're really short of breath and you can't figure out why. The solution is, of course, simple. You need to practice your takeout speed, as swimmers call it, or your start speed for the race. You need to be very comfortable judging it in all kinds of circumstances. And this includes when there's lots of people around you, in open water, and in different conditions. So you need to practice it multiple times. It's fairly simple, and you can actually start practicing it in the pool. Just do a short warm-up and then do 200 to 400 meters without looking at the clock or a watch or your heart rate or your GPS, and judge how fast you're going. Even 2 or 3 seconds per 100 faster than you are comfortable swimming for that race. And in a few hundred meters, you're going to be really short of breath. Make sure you get this right on race day, and you can solve yourself a lot of problems when it comes to shortness of breath during a race. Of course, there's the possibility that your shortness of breath when swimming is actually a medical condition, something like exercise-induced asthma, diagnosed or otherwise, and therefore swimming in the open water is simply a trigger for your medical condition, in which case you need to head to your doctor and get tested. There are tests you can do for exercise-induced asthma. The open water swimming, if it is a trigger, is something that you can compensate for. There are medications you can take, but we're willing to bet that it is one of the triggers we spoke about here today, and that hopefully we've given you the solution to that, and you can fix it for any future open water swim events.
Yeah, let us know if you have suffered with breathlessness in the open water before, or if any of our points today are the causes, or in fact, you've maybe figured out some other cause in the past, then let us know in the comment section down below. We hope you've enjoyed today's video. If so, please do get a thumbs up, give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe.
Thanks for watching.